What is up, my fellow schizotypals? Did you hear that noise? And welcome back to High Lit with Carlisle Fletcher, episode 18. So, today, first off, recommended viewing, actually kind of mandatory viewing. Before you even get into this, watch JrEg's Schizophrenia Explains Schizophrenia. It is one of the best pieces of content I've seen on mental illness ever. So, just first off, shouts out, because like mental illness in art, it's a very important topic. It's I would say under discussed, undervalued. People just really don't. It's like, so Carl Jung did say that a schizophrenic ceases to be schizophrenic when they feel understood. So I feel like representation is a very important thing, because when you're dealing with the schizoaffective or just any sort of schizoid or schizo behavior, you're dealing with somebody who's essentially, it's an eccentric. He's odd, but it's not like the same thing as, like, somebody with antisocial who has like a direct disregard for other people. So it's like, I think that when people are able to just stand up and make what I consider a beautiful piece of art, to try to just raise an understanding of it, I think it's fucking fantastic. And I've been watching a lot of his content recently, and so obviously JrEg was directly communicating with me, because we're the only two people that exist, and so he needed me to follow up from him, because he said that he didn't want to talk about this stuff or have the responsibility for it. He just wants to make his content. So what I'm here to do is I'm here to back up my boy. I'm here for boy support boys, because I love this man and I love his work and I'm very grateful for it. So he made a lot of really fast-paced claims. The first part of the show is going to just be going through a lot of claims made by him, and then studies and proving the things that he said, because he said a lot of great things. I just wanted to give them the concrete backing behind them. Then we're going to be finishing up The Nose by Gogol, and we'll wrap it up with Cogi. So that's a show that we got on for Tuesday. Hell yeah. Thanks for tuning in. Anyways, what is schizophrenia? What is it? When did it? Where did it come from? Where did it go? What is schizophrenia? Let's see. Is that a good size? You like me this big? But oh, that's wrong. There we go. So the word schizophrenia is less than 100 years old. But it was first identified as discrete mental illness by Dr. Emil Kraepelin in 1887. So then, like, Egypt thought that they had it. Greek and Roman, da 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 da. So it was a German physician who used the term dementia praecox for what you would call schizophrenia. But then it was the Swiss fucker, Eugen Buehler, coined the term schizophrenia in 1911. Also weird to think that LSD was made by a Swiss chemist in the middle of the fucking World War II. like, buddy, I mean, I love it. I love LSD. Is this the time and the place? I mean, I guess you're trying to make a stimulant. Well, okay. Also, declining world, baby. Declining world, yeah. I don't know, yeah, just support that. I don't know. Of course I fucking love that brand. But yeah, so, it was so this guy who started using schizophrenia was a fucking eugenicist. So he changed it from dementia, because it's not a form of dementia. And they both, and they subdivided it in categories based on prominent symptoms and prognoses. And then we got the disorganized, catatonic, paranoid, residual, and undifferentiated. So that's like essentially like kind of a working idea of what's going on with schizophrenia. The reason why I want to highlight this is that it's used as it was popularized by this literal eugenicist to show that something's wrong, and like 100% of the schizophrenics in occupied Germany were either sterilized or murdered. So when you're talking about this illness and like these labels, it's like, well, why do they label people these ways? What is the use of something like this? Why would somebody want to call a certain population schizophrenic? And it looks like to clean up the gene pool. So, hey, I am happy being an advocate and wearing this on me. I have family members, long line of schizophrenics. It's been in the family for fucking ever. Um, and although, I mean, I identify as a schizotypal. So it's like, you know what? Like, I'm proud to, like, talk about this shit. And, like, I don't think there's... But that's why I want to say, I don't think there's anything wrong with us. I don't think there's anything wrong with us. Like, it's not that there's not issues. It's that I don't think we need eugenicists to pay attention to us or categorize us or give us names. I think we're fucking good. I just got a janky brain. But, so, just some more stuff. So, cannabis use in clinical outcome in people with first, so it's like schizophrenia, blah, blah, blah. Cannabis use is associated with an unfavorable course of illness in schizophrenia. So they compared, and they found no significant group by time interactions for any of our outcomes, with the exception of poor functionality in cannabis users at baseline. No significant differences in these at baseline or month. Also, remission rates were similar. However, cannabis users met our operationally defined relapse criteria compared to non-users, and more frequent cannabis use over the course of treatment, as assessed by positive urine toxicology, predicted relapse. So our results suggest that cannabis users do not have poorer treatment response than non-users in terms of symptom reduction. However, dose-related risk of relapse remains with ongoing cannabis use, possibly by directly reducing the threshold for psychotic breakthrough. So I wanted to get into this because I think it's important to sort of... JrEg got into this a little bit, and it's a complicated like topic. Obviously, nobody really understands the brain. Nobody understands a goddamn thing. But when you have these schizophrenics, like, it does seem much more likely that you have these people who... So I'm trying to organize because, like, right here. So let's see. I'm pretty sure that this is the thing I have for the psychosis. Okay, no, I didn't. All right, so I'm missing a link. And then this should be... What the fuck? Okay. Okay, so, sorry. I just... I fucked up here. But, let me just pull this over, because I'm just missing links. This is very unprofessional, but I need them. So, let's just copy this one over. So let's just open this up. Let's just throw that in here. So, so this is the idea that after 90 years of research, there's been little evidence really strongly of what the schizophrenia as a disease is. And they're casting doubt on the reliability, the construct validity, the predicative validity, and the specificity of the schizophrenic diagnosis. And they say that the research seems fruitless and they should adapt alternative methods. And the tendency has always been strong to believe that whatever a name must be an entity or being having an independent existence of its own. And if no entity answering to the name can be found, men did for that reason did not suppose that none existed, but imagined that it was something peculiar, abstruse, and mysterious. So this is 1988 that people were already bucking against these outdated terms. And, like, as somebody with family members who are schizophrenic, I mean, like, yeah, it's not exactly what people want. It's not exactly what people want to do, you know. I don't really know. I guess I was just fucked up and I missed a lot of my links. Because, yeah, I don't have, like, several of my links. But, anyways, so that's where I just wanted to get into this idea that, like, might not exactly be there. But the next thing that we're going to look into is the what to expect from schizophrenia meds. So here we have, so this is cannabis, that's eye movement. So let's just, yeah, so we're on the schizophrenic meds. And let's see, what was the part that I was going to highlight again was, Let's see. Your doctor may suggest other ways to so-called... yeah. Okay. So, this is WebMD, and it says your doctor may suggest other ways to address so-called negative symptoms, which include social withdrawal, lack of motivation, or lack of emotional expression. Antipsychotics don't work well for these kinds of symptoms. And I wanted to highlight that because JrEg was talking about in his video how, you know, it's like once you block dopamine, it gets like harder to have like motivation and things like this. And it's like, yeah, dude, like literally they are aware of this. Like, and they like it's an issue. So that's negative symptoms that are coming right out of just you know trying to receive treatment. So now we have the adverse effects of antipsychotic medications. So what I wanted to highlight here was that even in the second generation, which isn't as many issues mentally, it can cause obesity and type 2 diabetes. Meanwhile, first ones are more with movement disorders, so like da-da-da-da. All of them are likelihood of sedation, sexual dysfunction, postural hypotension, cardiac arrhythmia, and sudden cardiac death. So, yeah, when JrEg was talking about negative effects being correlated to the use of medications meant to treat the symptoms, yeah, holy shit, dude! Like it's like these are dopamine blockers. So especially if you're getting somebody fatter, you're getting like you're increasing the rates of obesity, you're making somebody diabetic, like all these things, that's going to increase amotivation, avolition, and all those things so much more. So while you're trying to treat this person as if they're the issue, but like really like think about lifestyle. Really think about lifestyle because like these pills that they're like it's like to receive, I don't know about JrEg because he lives in Canada, but to receive help as a person with a mental disorder in America, you need to be on the medication that they give you because like you know that's like that's the only way that they can prove that you're not fighting against it. And obviously this is a much longer, you know, it's like they have like, dude, like again, up to 43% of people report a problem with sexual dysfunction. What the fuck? Sorry, no, I knew that. Yeah, dude, what the fuck? 1.6 to 1.7 fold increase in the risk of death. Like, she's rough, dude. But yeah, so additionally, up to 30% of people with schizophrenia don't respond to 2 or more antipsychotic medications. That's treatment-resistant schizophrenia. Chlorazil is the only evidence-based treatment for treatment-resistant schizophrenia. Excuse me, with 60 to 70% trusted, or 60 to 70% of people showing a positive response. Although it can include affecting your white blood cell count, but it's safe to use with careful monitoring. Anyways, next one, around 310, he said schizoid and medicated schizophrenics look similar. And I would say that because there's like a thing with schizoid and schizophrenia where I would say the dopamine irregularity can both mean the presence of too much dopamine, so positive symptoms like hallucinations, delusions, etc. But also I would hypothesize that negative affect and things like that actually come from dopamine being blocked, where it's like, I understand that antipsychotics block things in the brain. This is a medical theory. I have no expertise. Do not take this as fact. But I would say that if the schizophrenic's brain is irregulated and it has improper dopamine release and improper neurotransmitter release, perhaps the brain also has like alternating phases of releasing too much and too little, and too much and too little. So like it bounces back between the negative symptoms where there's no dopamine to have any motivation, and then the positive symptoms where there's so much dopamine, there's motivation that's related to a cause that isn't there. So it's an improper regulation. So when you block all of the dopamine out of the schizophrenic, yeah, they look like, you know, a schizoid, or, you know, because it's like they can just have the negative affect. Anyways, my boy over here was talking about how we could, like, there's a lot of really promising alternative treatments. And that's true, because holistic management of schizophrenia is very important. They used pharmacological and non-pharmacological treatment in this, but this study is that it's about individuals with schizophrenia lead a poor quality of life due to poor medical attention, homelessness, unemployment, financial constraints, lack of education, poor social skills. Thus, a factor with the holistic management is of paramount importance. Although medications play a role, other factors include financial management, independent community living, independent living skill, relationship, friendship, entertainment, regular exercise for weight gain due to medication administration, comorbid health issues, and daycare programs for independent living. And this review targets like schizophrenics and like just sees what's going on with them. So this is obviously all this research. We could go through all of this, but just for the how are we already doing on time? We're already 16 minutes in, and I don't think we're halfway through the video. So I'm sorry, it's all here. I'm just not going to go through this right now, but I'm going to go to the results. I know, we skipped through the results, but I wanted to, yoga. The yoga group showed better negative symptom scores. All right, so let's just. Oh wow, that's dense. Yeah, that's all we. Okay, so we're just at the discussion. Fuck it. We found that different symptoms of schizophrenia can be adequately addressed and managed using different methods. However, there are several issues like recreation and entertainment, public guardianship, and training for financial management that have not adequately been addressed in prior studies. And this is about putting all that in there. Although most studies focus on ameliorating positive and negative symptoms, like the eugenicist, he was the first guy to label somebody schizophrenic, and he also was the first person to describe positive and negative symptoms, I believe. Other symptoms such as homelessness and lack of education equally impact the quality of life in individuals with schizophrenia. So, yeah, sure, maybe they're unmedicated, but are they fucking homeless? Are they, it's like, how is their quality of life outside of their brain chemistry? And lack of education equally impact the quality of life in individuals with schizophrenia. And thus, targeting these symptoms is of paramount importance. By doing so, we will provide an individualized treatment for schizophrenia, as well as increase the patient's participation in society. Sorry that I'm just reading. I know that this is just dead air. But the point here is that when you're reviewing this, and I wish I could just get something that had to do with like living alone or like taking, diet. Do we have anything interesting on diet? So 102, emphasis on fruit and vegetable behavior. The study concluded that male patients had poor dietary choices. Patients consumed a higher quantity of food that included protein, carbohydrate, and fat than of a control group. Huh. Well, that's the fucking American diet, isn't it? Okay. Okay. So, yeah. So, that is just, I wanted to just bring this up because it's like, this is a 2018 study. I think that we need to make a lot more grounds here. I'm going to end off this segment with a further argument on that, but I wanted to prove the point that homelessness, familyness, disconnected, not having any sort of community, difficulty getting around, difficulty finding stable, independent employment, these things really affect the quality of life of those on the schizophrenic spectrum. And so, like, that is, I would say that should be the first line of treatment. The first line of treatment with a schizophrenic shouldn't be like, all right, here's an antipsychotic. It should be like, all right, how do we get you comfortably involved with people that you feel safe enough around to be around? Who do you feel like you can be around? Whether that be a conference for, like, you know, solar panels, or that's church, or it's a community garden, you know, like anything that just those sorts of people you feel safe. Like, try to get them involved in that, you know, try to get them to volunteer, try to get them to skill build, try to get them to just have more engagement with the world around them. And I think that as a treatment option is very underrated. That's also an opinion, so again, don't take that as gospel. The next thing, so just to piggyback off that, so when you have the holistic management and like homelessness and things like that, Finland just fucking basically ended homelessness by giving them a house, you know. So where's the numbers? So they want to completely end homelessness by 2027. So at least 25% should be affordable social housing. So supply is decent. But yeah, so the idea is that they give people... This is... I don't... So in Finland, we have some scientific evidence to cost this program. So when a homeless person gets a permanent home, even with support, the cost saving for the society are at least 15,000 euros. So maybe like 18,000 USD per one person per year. And the cost saving come from a different use of different services. So like what we're dealing with here is that if you have this holistic attitude towards addressing things, where it's like, as JrEg says, like the percentage, according to different studies, of how many homeless people are schizophrenic ranges from 2 to 60%. So if you start giving homeless people homes and you start seeing them improve, and it starts saving us $15,000 a year per person, that's probably also improving the situation for many people on the schizophrenic spectrum without direct antipsychotic, what's the word? When you get involved in something in the middle of it? Intervention. Without antipsychotic intervention, or you know, something to that effect. I think that if you went with lifestyle and like personal choice and personal agency and skill build and confidence and just the ability that somebody feels like they can live, I feel like that's going to be where you see real differences made. So he also does a great job to explain like the different experiences. So around like 450, he talks about like the hearing voices movement, and like goes through like different experiences of people, which I thought was fucking awesome. So good job on that. So let's throw this up for schizotypal personality disorder, because considering I use that as my intro, we probably should discuss that. We're now about to be on the 7th minute of the video, but the concept of schizotypal personality disorder has been heavily discussed since its introduction to the official classification of mental disorders in the DSM. So that was the DSM-3. He read the DSM-5 on stream. The aim of the study was to investigate the difference between schizotypal personality disorder within and outside the genetic spectrum of schizophrenia. Schizotypals with and without schizophrenic co-twins and first-degree relatives were compared with individuals with other mental disorders and no mental disorders as controls. It appears that only inadequate report and odd communication were more pronounced among the schizotypals within compared to schizotypals outside the schizophrenic spectrum. Schizotypals outside the schizophrenic spectrum, however, scored higher than schizotypals inside the schizophrenic spectrum on ideas of reference, suspiciousness, paranoia, social anxiety, self-damaging acts, chronic anger, free-floating anxiety, and sensitivity to rejection. Interesting, the 4 last features are seldom observed among schizotypals inside the schizophrenic spectrum. Monozygotic non-schizophrenic co-twins of schizophrenic score high on inadequate report, odd communication, social isolation, and delusion/hallucination. Monozygotic non-schizophrenic co-twins of schizotypals outside the schizophrenic genetic spectrum score high on illusions, depersonalization, derealization, and magical thinking. Negative schizotypal features appear to be inside the schizophrenic spectrum, while positive borderline-like features are outside, having another genetic endowment. So, I wanted to bring this up just because discussing subtypes and things like this, there seems even within the schizotypal, there is a subtype. There's at least two distinct subtypes. Where what I would kind of say there's the paranoid, and then there's like the more the more hallucinogenic, or like the more magical one, where like one is more about like paranoia, social anxiety, free floating anxiety, sensitive to rejection, and that's outside the schizophrenic spectrum. Meanwhile, within is inadequate report and odd communication. So it's like schizophrenia does seem to be, and like the people who are in that genetic group seem to have just a different way of communicating that is inadequate report to people who are not used to speaking that way, while people who are outside, so schizotypals who are outside the schizophrenic spectrum, don't have that like magical language as much as they have this social withdrawal and inability to like meet with people. It seems like it's a more extreme asociality, whereas the schizotypals within schizophrenics is just more of a eccentric. It's more of an eccentric. Yeah, so I guess an eccentric and an asocial subtype would make the most sense to me. And then also, so there was another article on this one, which should be, so this is magical thinking as a biopsychological development for cognition and affective symptoms and intensity and schizotypy, and the genetics behind that. And ultimately they did find that there were genes which had a higher intensity of magical thinking, and then also excessive social anxiety. So by finding genetic association with magical thinking and social anxiety, it does look like there is a distinct genetic heritability and predisposition to schizotypy. And then we had some this is just some fucking wacko shit. Sorry. That I found, which is so when I think this is what he was referencing when JrEg was bringing up that schizophrenics are much more likely to like believe in things that don't really exist and all that stuff. So this was a 2016 study which found that schizotypy predicted conspiracy ideation. So like the people who were on the schizotypal spectrum were more likely to have odd beliefs, magical thinking, and ideas of reference, which would significantly predict conspiracy ideation. And then there was a follow-up study on that, which basically said no, because if you have analytic thinking and self-certainty, it makes that association go away. And I would say, like, yeah, no shit. If somebody, if somebody's not really critical of things, they're going to be more likely to, fall for strange niche ideas. But if somebody, no matter if they're on the schizotypal spectrum or not, is just a more critical, active person, it's like, yeah, no, they can, you can chase down what you need to get through. So this is he brought up also so that estrogen might be protective. So this is also sex differences in schizotypy in a non-clinical population. And it seems that normal women score higher on the more positive features, and men score higher on the negative features. So women scored higher on the ideas of reference and odd beliefs / magical thinking, while men scored higher on the subscales of no close friends and constricted affect. So I would say this also speaks to like the gender roles of male and female, where I think that men are much more prone to being isolated. I don't think that there are many efforts to include men into any sort of healthy environment or anything emotionally valid. So you do have you mean like men commit suicide, and also men are more likely to, you know, report having no close friends, and, you know, not really expressing emotively fully, because like they're just not, you know, it's like people say it's like men don't cry, men don't express their feelings, and it's like also you need to be socialized to do those things. So if you've never listened to that person express their feelings before in their life, you might be part of the reason why they don't understand how to do so. Meanwhile, you know, like not to throw any shade here, but when people start talking to me about Satanism and magic rocks and, you know, just like random religious shit, it is usually women. I do think that there is something about the feminine that is more open to spiritual ideas and like things which are supernatural. So I think that this also just makes sense. I think that there is probably a genetic, or like, you know, there's a male and a female reaction to the disease and how it manifests. But I also think that just in the way that these groups of people tend to behave, it makes sense why you would see those results. And then at 750, we're getting into when he was saying that sleep deprivation predicts a psychotic episode. You got this is a study from 2018, which is a review of 476 articles, and they found that for most people, symptoms rapidly developed after one night without sleep, pressing in an almost fixed time-dependent way. Perceptual distortions, anxiety, irritability, depersonalization, and temporal distortion started within 24 to 48 hours of sleep loss, followed by complex hallucinations and disorganized thinking after 48 to 90 hours, and delusion after 72 hours, after which the time of clinical picture resembled that of an acute psychosis or toxic delirium. By the third day without sleep, hallucinations in all three sensory modalities were reported. A period of normal sleep seemed to revolve psychotic symptoms in many, although not all, cases. So, I mean, like, that is a direct correlation between sleep and, you know, like, improper mental processing. And so we have 3 more things that are relevant on that. So let's just pull up this next one, which is psychotic-like experiences in patients with insomnia or sleep apnea. So this is on people who have those sleep issues. And here we found that it's a study on 24 subjects. Here we found that those with insomnia had significantly higher scores of magical and delusional ideations compared to healthy control. Sleep apnea patients showed a tendency of a higher score of delusional beliefs in comparison to controls. Magical ideations in insomnia subjects were significantly negative correlated with the number of sleep spindles. In a subgroup of insomnia patients without antidepressant, delusional beliefs were negatively associated with REM sleep. So, again, you're getting symptomology directly related to quality of sleep, and like, dude, just think about how you went to high school. Think about the American experience. We do not fucking sleep. Unwanted memories often enter conscious awareness when individuals confront reminders. People vary widely in their talents at suppressing such memory intrusions. However, the factors that govern suppression ability are poorly understood. We tested the hypothesis that successful memory control requires sleep. Following overnight sleep or total sleep deprivations, patients attempted to suppress intrusions of emotionally negative and neutral scenes when confronted with reminders. The sleep-deprived group experienced significantly more intrusions, unsuccessful suppressions than the sleep group. Deficient controls over intrusive thoughts had consequences, whereas in restant participants, suppression reduced behavior and psychological indic of negative affect for adverse memories. It had no such salutary effect for sleep-deprived participants. Our finding raised the possibility that sleep deprivation disrupts prefrontal over mediotemporal lobe structures that support memory and emotion. So that's further, and this one should be the last one, which is So sleep problems have been reliably associated with psychotic experiences in adults and have been targeted as for intervention. However, for children, it has not been as well recorded. So after 1 year follow-up and the presence of sleep disorder predicted the persistence of psychotic experience. However, remission of sleep did not predict remission of psychotic experiences. In all models where an association was found, sleep was one of the two strongest predictors of psychotic experiences, with stimulus medication being the other. Okay, yeah, what the fuck? But yes, so sleep and stimulant medication are the two biggest predictors in children for having psychotic experiences. Think about that. Adderall, everybody's been fucking on it, dude. Everybody's been given Adderall. I could have got on Adderall. I just didn't fucking want it. And that's, speaking of which, that's what we're going to be going into. Isn't that fucking fun? But yeah, so basically, sleep disturbances do predict psychotic episodes, but like getting back to sleep does not work for everybody and them going back down. And within in 8:20 in the video, he mentions that rates of schizophrenia remain stable with increased drug use. So I wanted to bring up this study, which is this one. Yeah? No? Wait, is it this? Yeah, that is the right one. So is this a dupe? No, it doesn't look like a dupe. I might have the rest of the articles that I need. Isn't this fun? Eye movement in patients in early psychosis with and without a history of cannabis use. So basically, eye tracing is an important thing with schizophrenia because if you have like a moving object, like a slow moving object, you should be able to follow it very slowly with your eyes accurately. And they find that people who are more likely to be psychotic or have psychotic experiences just find doing that difficult. So that's essentially the test. And what they found was that for finding, participants, so they had people who had psychotic experiences who used cannabis, people who had psychotic experiences who didn't use cannabis, people who used cannabis that did not have psychotic experiences, and people who did not use cannabis that did not have psychotic experiences. And what they found was that there's a large difference between people with psychotic experiences with impairment compared to the non-cannabis using group. But this is also a non-cannabis using group. So we found no significant effect for error, whereas patients had fewer valid trials compared to control. These data indicate that impairment of smooth pursuit in psychosis is more severe in patients without a history of cannabis use. This is consistent with the notion that the severity of neurobiological alterations in psychosis is lower in patients whose illness develops in the context of cannabis use. So, dense. And again, this is a complete medical trial, but we're just trying to move things. We're just trying to move through things, but like basically just like look at the graphs, like read this on your own time, but you can see that like these are pretty similar and these are pretty similar. So like the NC, no cannabis, the C, cannabis. So what you're looking at here is that this is the psychotic group and this is the non-psychotic group. And the non-psychotic groups are more like each other and the psychotic groups are more like each other than the cannabis groups are the not cannabis groups are. So that's what's really interesting here. And also you're finding that there's like a severe issue, like there's more severity in the patients who are just psychotic. Like people who are just psychotic, the only issue with them is that they're psychotic, they don't use cannabis, is that there's like there's no other exacerbating thing. So from this study, I'm just going to read. I don't have the quote in front of me, but I have it quoted on a different Conversely, it has been argued that the cannabis psychosis association is explained by those prone to psychosis being also prone to cannabis use. Shared vulnerability hypothesis. In that case, one would not expect to see any differences in such marker in EPC than EPNC, or if cannabis use indexes increased pre-existing vulnerability, may see that chronic cannabis use patients displays worse performance in such measures than patients without cannabis use. So the two patient groups were, with the exceptions of the substance use measures, essentially indistinguishable clinically. But yeah, so I don't have time to continue to try to get this totally figured out. But I feel like you get the point, is that, yeah, so I want to jump to something else. I don't know, because it's like the thing that I want to combine that with is that, so you have I don't have the study in front of me, maybe I can find it later in the show, but you have these people who are not psychotic, right, and they're not schizophrenic, and they have never had to be in treatment, and you have a schizophrenic, and a schizophrenic's never done drugs, you know, like they just are crazy, so they have to get treatment. But then the person who like starts smoking weed, and then all of a sudden, you know, like they start getting these like effects that, like, you know, they go to the hospital, right? You know, it's like they smoke like 4 blunts and they end up in the hospital, and they're talking with a doctor, and this doctor's writing down things that sound like psychotic symptoms and all this. You're gonna get something that like kind of makes it look worse than it is, because you're getting somebody who is intoxicated on cannabis, which will end. You know, they'll go back, they'll be sober eventually. But you're getting somebody intoxicated on cannabis reporting to a doctor what they're feeling, which might lead to a more dramatic diagnosis than they would receive otherwise. You know, so it's like there are these people who may not necessarily be psychotic sober, who are being considered psychotic peoples because of the effects of cannabis, and I would wager that might not be the best thing. And that's also, so the reason why I bring that up is that that's why I think you're going to see people who are psychotic that don't smoke cannabis have do worse on eye following test. And I think that's because they are more truly psychotic. Whereas like there might be some people in the psychotic with cannabis use groups that are just not particularly suited to cannabis use. And then he mentioned that stimulants are more likely to cause psychosis and psychotic-like behavior. So this was a study on 54 studies. And experimental studies show that a single dose of the stimulant can produce a brief increase in psychotic ratings in 50 to 70% of participants with schizophrenia and pre-existing psychotic symptoms unaffected by the presence of antipsychotic medication. Those with schizophrenia who do not have acute symptoms respond, but less frequently. So 50 to 70% of them negatively respond to fucking stimulants, and yet it's this weed that's so scary. So scary. 50 to 70% have psychotic fucking... And this is also, so psychocutaneous, just read that as like generally, you know, psychotic. And this is another one on stimulant use. So 60% of people with psychocutaneous disease had recently used a stimulant, and more than 80% had an additional psychiatric disorder. The younger group had a higher rate of stimulant use. So, you know, it's just like, and I, so that's what we got with the, that's what we got with stims, because, what the fuck? And then he got into he said, I think he said a little bit obscure or esoteric or something on it with the black mold, but I wanted to bring up this shit. So, like, this is I can't find the full piece of information. I'd love the full piece of information. I'd love to read the study, but I cannot because I don't have access to it. But anyways, from a quote from this study I found in a different study, is that a prospective study, this one, of 7,455 Danish children noted that proximity to traffic and exposure to higher levels of benzene and carbon monoxide were associated with significantly higher rates of schizophrenia. And then let's follow that up with the Lancet, which is, so this is another one. This is 18. This is 80 to 84. And this is people in Denmark, right? So these are all from car, exhaust. Like these are, just driving around, etc., etc. And what they found, like Jesus Christ. Higher concentrations of residential car exhaust and pollution exposure during childhood were associated with subsequent elevated schizophrenia risk. People exposed to daily mean concentrations of more than this amount had a 95%, if I'm reading that right, times increased risk compared with people exposed to mean daily concentration of that amount. The absolute risk of developing schizophrenia by the age of 37 when exposed to daily mean concentrations of more than this amount were that. But, okay, I don't know how to read fucking nerd math. I love you guys, fucking great work, but I don't, this is some Euro shit. They're doing some calculations and like, they're telling me a number and a calculation at the same fucking time. But, point is, yeah, so like not only black mold, not only heavy metals, not all this, but like the very environment, the very way that our cities are built are designed in a way that would make children schizophrenic. That is like, that just happens because of our poor choices in design. So like not only is it the shitty infrastructure, not only is it the bad water that we offer, not only is it that, but it's also the way that we get our kids to school. It's the way that we make our money. It's the way that we travel. It's the way that we have fun. You get stressed out and you just go on a joyride and you're giving children schizophrenia. It's like because we don't have walkable cities, because we don't have sustainable cities, because we don't have anything that is built on a human scale that's fucking natural, we're slowly dying. I mean, it's fucking hell world, dude. What is but like, Jesus. Anyways, welcome back to the show. Everything's straight. I'm having a great time. So I think I just have more. Yeah, I think I just have more. 60% of the association of urban residency and adolescent psychotic experiences. So like that's like almost, I imagine that's like on the level of fucking PTSD. And let's just restart this bitch. But this is about people just isolating schizophrenics. Give me that back. I want that back. Yeah, but this is so about people isolating it. As the most dramatic changes in social network develop after the patient's first hospitalization. So basically, as soon as shit goes wrong, people do just abandon them. So he's also, I just wanted to fact check that one and just be like, yeah, no, that is what people do. They will just fucking leave you because you're having a rough time, because it's challenging to live. They'll just abandon you. And then this is a study which shows that people who are schizophrenic have a worse reaction to ostracization and social exclusion. So like when a schizophrenic is not included or is like seen as weird and all that, they feel it worse. So not only are they ostracized, but it hurts them more when they are ostracized. And this is about social inclusion and mental illness. And this is in Timor-Leste. And this is a review which found that it's widespread, multifaceted social, cultural, economic, and political exclusion. They were stigmatized as a consequence of beliefs that they were dangerous and lacked capacity, and experienced instances of bullying, physical and sexual violence, and confinement. Several barriers to formal employment, education, social protection, and legal systems were identified. Experience of social inclusion for people with mental illness were also described at family and community levels. People with mental illness were included through family and community structures that promoted unity and acceptance. They also had opportunities to participate in activities surrounding family life and livelihoods that contributed to integrational well-being. Some, but not all, benefited from programs. So, like, no, literally, these people are ostracized. We can do it through, like, we can study it. I now want to bring up Wrath of Known because I highlighted the idea that, it's this pollution that is, you know, causing huge issues. Because, I mean, like, just look at all those fucking cars. And this is, like, good. That's a nice city. But, like, when you're looking at, you know, like, independence, you're looking at the ability to, like, walk around, take care of yourself, like, and just try to be an independent person who can, like, have that ability to, like, just, you know, self-respect. Like, it's almshouses. There's these things that you can just build that are within the city that are walkable and, like, you know, they're sustainable and, like, they're these beautiful things that just, like, you know, these are for the elderly. But I would say, like, you can do the same thing with, like, schizophrenic because, you know, like, you're not seeing these massive fuck-off highways just everywhere here. You know, you see, like, you could, like, put, you know, like, maybe, like, 40 people in here, right? And then they have this own, like, little private thing. They can, like, walk out into the woods and, like, that's, like, really... You know, like just like a low stimulation environment. But then there's also going through the front door into this like slow neighborhood that seems to roll out into something that's like a little denser. You know, so it's like when you put a schizophrenic in an environment like this, instead of like a fucking 3-bedroom over here where it's like a 10-minute drive to the closest fucking people, like not to mention a fucking walk. Meanwhile, you can take a 10-minute walk here and be over there. You know, so it's like that level of independence without needing a car and without the pollution, I think really addresses these sorts of issues that we're having. It also addresses, like, you know, gas prices. It addresses the need for those sorts of things. It addresses, like, if you have these more localized areas, you can really start to heal people. Because I think that schizophrenic needs this. They don't need medication. Because, again, when you ameliorate the shitty life conditions, you see improvement in those people. And also, if we're saying that homeless people are likely to be schizophrenic, then you're saving $15,000 a year on people who are likely schizophrenic through giving them homes and shit like that. You know, so it's like but finally, this is the final thread that I wanted to give him. You know, and like this is just a small town that just like, you know, it lets people live and work. And like that's just you know, that's just what you It's what you wanna do. You know, you wanna make it easier for people to deal with their lives, and to just, you know, I would say like maybe it's like weird to say this, but I'd say like fall in love with themselves. You know, like I think that like if a schizophrenic falls in love with themselves and feels good, I think they're straight. How far were we? I think we have 10 pages left in this, but that was all. We're finally done the schizophrenic segment. We are 51 minutes in. I'm going to read a poem instead. Just because, like, I don't know. I feel like we're all about at time. So, that video by JrEg again. Thank you so fucking much, man. Just thank you. I'd fucking shake your hand. I am proud of that video. I'm very happy with that video. As somebody who, again, I am happy to socially and publicly identify as a schizotypal. Diagnosed, you know, because it's like I'm not a schizophrenic because I'm socially functioning and I can do things, but I think like a schizophrenic. You know, that's the thing that's weird about schizotypy is that it's like you are a schizophrenic, you're just also a normal people. So it's like that's like the weird. Is like I understand it's a spectrum, but to me it's like seeing both sides and thus being nowhere, because you're not the same fucking isolated batshit crazy goat that a schizophrenic is, where they just like, you know, go off into the mountains and become no one. You know, you're a little bit more than that. You know, you're not completely out in space, but you are pretty fucking spacey. And at the same time, you can understand how to make money, kind of, or you can understand how to have, like, you know, a girlfriend, but like it just doesn't really feel like things make sense or are lined up the way that it should be. I don't know. It's a weird experience because it's like you understand both sides and nobody understands you. A word that I like for it is pseudo-rational, because like I'm really well studied in philosophy and religion and all these beautiful things that make sense, but I don't have to make sense. I just use them because I think they're pretty, and it's kind of an aesthetic, but it's also like, you know, hopefully I'm right sometimes. I mean, I just spent a whole fucking day going through that to try to prove my homie's point. All right, it's not even prove his point because he made his point perfectly. But I just wanted to just, if you're interested in this topic, here's all this shit for you to review. Please do review it. And also, like, dude, he in a different video he'd say, don't ask me about this, don't talk to me about this, I don't want the responsibility. Hey, dude, I don't want the responsibility because, again, I'm not a medical professional, but if you guys want to have a discussion on schizophrenia, on cannabis use, on mental health, on all of these things, I'm totally happy to. And I want this to be a platform where we can normalize the discussion of these things in a safe environment, critically. And it's okay to have passionate opinions. You know, like, I consider myself a pretty passionate guy, but I'm always open to new information, and I totally will admit when I'm wrong. So, you know, it's pretty much about the rules here. But I hope you enjoyed this content. I don't think I can make it through 10 pages of the short story, so we're going to commit a sin, and we're going to split up. We're going to split up the goggle, right? Oh, fuck it. Okay, we're flipping a coin, because this might be like an hour, 30-minute episode fucking otherwise. I don't have a coin on me. I guess we're using the Google coin flip. So give me that new private window. Flip a coin. If it's heads, we'll read it. It's tails. Thank God, I'm so fucked out of my brain right now. Poem, poetry. Who does good poetry? Who are we in the mood for? I guess we can just go back to Pushkin, but like, Vitalis is so gay. I'm pissed off I remembered that name. Yeah, we're just doing a random Pushkin poem. We got a little bird, a fucking spig of Vitalis. The flower, a wish. I feel like we could do a wish. Don't ask me why. Yeah, let's do don't ask me why. I feel like that's perfect. And look, it's on Pinterest, so you can don't give away my fucking info. Thanks, John. Shout out John. Don't ask me why. Don't ask me why, alone in dismal thought. In times of mirth, I'm often filled with strife. And why my weary stare is so distraught. And why I don't enjoy the dream of life. Don't ask me why my happiness is perished. Why I don't love the love that pleased me then. No longer can I call someone my cherished. Who once felt love and will never love again. Who once felt bliss, no more will feel its essence. A moment's happiness is all that we receive. From youth, prosperity, and joyful pleasantry, all that's left is apathy and grief. Why not grief and apathy? I feel like that's how that one should have went. But, banger! Don't ask me why. Don't ask me why. Don't ask me why. Please talk to me. This is my show. I appreciate you coming out. It's fucking amazing. This is, like, one of my best fucking friends. Look at this. Look at this angel. Look at this angel. He makes angel music. I probably shouldn't be using that word in my current outfit, but he makes angel music. So go listen to it. I signed to this guy when I was like a fucking teenager. Anyways, I don't know. That was the show for today. Tomorrow, mushrooms. Tomorrow we're doing mushrooms. Come for that Wednesday. We're pretty much done here. I'm just going to put on the album. You know the fucking deal. Love you so much for coming out. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Check out Cogi Tavi. Goes by Cogi. Brady. Yeah. Love him. Love him to death. Also, love you, boy. You're fucking amazing. Love you, JrEg. Good job on the fucking video. Love you, Pushkin. Everything's fucking sick. Everything's fucking sick. If you want to be on the show, you want to have content featured, highlightpodcast@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Listen to this fucking music. Probably keep hanging out, but no, wait, that. There we go. I'm gonna keep bothering you, but I just, you know, now at this point, there's fucking music on. So. Speaking of psychedelics, when I was younger, I used to take so much psychedelics to this fucking music. Holy shit, dude. I've been lost on public transport, high off my fucking ass, high off my dick, listening to this. And I got back home. It brings you back home. I think he made this when he was like 15. We're in our mid-20s now. I gotta know when these things are gonna turn decades, because we gotta do like a whole fucking. What is the year on this? 13. 2 years. 2 years. That'll be a decade old. Holy fuck. checking in with High Lit. This is that Lean for Sale affiliate link. Yeah, Lean for Sale is me and Brady. We're part of an art collective together. We've made a lot of art together. I don't know if that's like breaking the fourth wall. I don't know like what the character difference is between like me as an artist and like me as like a host. But yeah, I do a lot of music. This is the guy I do music with. Anyways, fucking check him out. Sick as fuck. We're ending with a song that's 420. I feel like that's fitting because we're over 110. So we're just gonna let this song play out and then. Oh, also that GoPro got sent back and it still does not work. This fucker still does not work. Spacey. This is my Clams Casino. I also still can't do the lighting. Isn't it classy that we're here? And so that's a taste of what goes on with my boy. Love him to death. I think he's a very talented musician. And please support his work. I think that Brady really excels at just making his own tapestries of sound. And just really talented guy, and he has a great ear. He has a great talent for aesthetic. And I mean that, man. I support the fuck out of you. Check out JrEg after this too. Like, comment, and subscribe. High Lit, we're here Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. See you tomorrow. Have a good rest of your day. See ya.